She raised the billionaire CEO's twins alone until he found out the truth in court. "I have twins you've never met." These 7 words shattered Jackson Westbrook's world as he stood frozen in the marble-floored courthouse, staring at the woman he'd walked away from 12 years ago. The tech billionaire who commanded boardrooms with unwavering confidence now trembled before Madeline Reed and 2 preteens with his eyes, his smile, his blood. Jackson had built an empire worth billions, but standing in that community center courtroom, he realized he was actually bankrupt in everything that counted. 12 years of birthdays, first steps, and bedtime stories gone forever. Could any amount of money buy back the time he'd thrown away? Would these 2 strangers ever call him dad and mean it? Could Madeline forgive the man who abandoned her with 2 heartbeats inside her? Or would Jackson's desperate attempt to become the father he should have been end in rejection? Have you ever had a moment that split your life into before and after? What would you do if you discovered you had children you never knew existed? If you've ever experienced a life-changing revelation or wondered how someone could miss years of their children's lives, subscribe now, because stories like this remind us how fragile everything really is. Despite having everything money could buy, a technology empire valued at billions, an architectural marvel of a penthouse, and global recognition, and emptiness gnawed at Jackson Westbrook. He sipped his lukewarm coffee, its bitter taste mirroring the regret that occasionally visited him in quiet moments like these. 12 years of relentless work had built his empire, yet something vital was missing. Success felt hollow when there was no one to share it with. "Another day, another dollar," he muttered to himself, the old phrase his father used to say, now a cynical reminder of how far he'd come from his humble beginnings. The next morning, Jackson descended in his private elevator, perfectly dressed in a custom Italian suit. His driver waited at the curb, door already open. "Good morning, Mr. Westbrook," said Michael, his driver of 8 years. "Morning, Michael. Riverfront offices today. Board meeting at 9. As the luxury sedan glided through morning traffic, Jackson scrolled through emails on his tablet. A notification from a local news app caught his attention. Normally, he ignored these, but a familiar name jumped out at him. Local hero. Single mother successfully raises twins against the odds. The headline alone made him pause, but the accompanying photo froze the blood in his veins. Madeline Reed, his Madeline, stood smiling, surrounded by 2 preteens. His finger trembled as he enlarged the image. A boy and a girl, both around 12 years old, both with his distinctive green eyes. "Michael," Jackson's voice cracked. "Change of plans. Take me to Hope Haven Community Center instead." "Sir?" The board meeting. "Cancel it." Jackson could barely hear his own voice over the thundering of his heart. "Family emergency." Family emergency. The words felt foreign on his tongue. He had no family. Not since. Memories flooded back. Madeline's voice on the phone 12 years ago, breaking with emotion. He'd been so wrapped up in securing his first major investment deal that he'd barely listened. She was pregnant, that much he'd understood. But in his fear and ambition, he'd made the worst decision of his life. "I can't do this right now, Madeline. The timing is all wrong. Maybe after the company takes off." He transferred money to her account, assuming that would solve the problem. Days later, divorce papers arrived. He signed them without contesting, believing he was doing what was best for both of them. Had she said she was carrying twins? Had he been so self-absorbed that he missed this crucial detail? Or had she not known herself at that early stage? The car pulled up to a modest brick building. Hope Haven Community Center read a simple wooden sign. Children's laughter drifted from an open window. "Wait here," Jackson told Michael, his legs unsteady as he stepped onto the sidewalk. A mural decorated one wall of the center, vibrant colors depicting children holding hands across a rainbow bridge. Jackson approached the entrance, heart hammering against his ribs. Through the open doors, he saw a gathering in the main room. A small celebration appeared to be underway, and there she was, Madeline, moving among the guests with practiced ease, her smile warm and genuine as she spoke with community members. She looked different, yet the same. Her blonde hair was shorter now, brushing her shoulders instead of cascading down her back. Laugh lines framed her eyes, eyes that had once looked at him with such love. She wore simple jeans and a Hope Haven t-shirt, a far cry from the corporate attire she'd worn when they first met at his startup's launch party. Before Jackson could retreat or advance, a preteen boy appeared in the doorway. Tall and lanky with familiar green eyes, he stared at Jackson with curious intensity. "Can I help you?" the boy asked, his voice deepening but not yet fully matured. Jackson opened his mouth, but no words emerged. This was his son, his flesh and blood. The boy had Jackson's jawline, his mother's nose. "Noah, who are you talking to?" A girl appeared beside the boy, followed by Madeline. The girl had the same green eyes, his eyes. "I'm looking for Madeline Reed," Jackson finally managed. "Mom," called the boy, turning back toward the room. "Someone's here for you." Madeline appeared behind her children, wiping her hands on a small towel. "What is it, Oliver?" "We're about to cut the towel." She froze when she saw Jackson. The towel slipped from her fingers. Jackson. His name escaped her lips as barely a whisper. "Hello, Madeline." Jackson's voice trembled. "It's been a long time." The two preteens looked between their mother and this stranger, confusion evident on their faces. "Kids," Madeline said, her voice strained but controlled, "could you please go help Mrs. Chen with the refreshments? I need to speak with this gentleman." "But Mom," began the girl. "Please, Olivia, just for a few minutes." The children reluctantly retreated, casting curious glances over their shoulders. Madeline stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind her. Her composure was remarkable, but Jackson could see the slight tremor in her hands. "What are you doing here?" she asked quietly. "I saw the article about you and the twins," Jackson's voice caught. "Madeline, are they—" "Yes." Her response was clipped. "They're yours, both of them." Jackson leaned against the porch railing for support. "Why didn't you tell me?" Fire flashed in Madeline's eyes. "I did tell you. You were too busy becoming a tech mogul to listen, and then you made it abundantly clear you wanted no part of it." "I never knew there were twins," Jackson whispered. "Would it have made a difference?" Madeline challenged. "One child wasn't worth staying for. Would two have changed your mind?" Her words cut deep because they contained truth. Jackson had no defense. "What are their names?" he asked instead. Madeline's expression softened slightly. "Oliver is the oldest by 3 minutes. Then Olivia." "They're beautiful, Madeline. You've done an amazing job." "I had no choice," she replied. "But they are amazing kids." Jackson swallowed hard. "I want to meet them properly." Madeline crossed her arms. "Why? After 12 years, why now?" "Because I was wrong," Jackson admitted, his voice breaking. "So terribly wrong. I've made millions, but I've never been happy. Not really. And seeing them seeing you, I realize what I threw away." Madeline studied him, searching for sincerity or manipulation. Jackson stood before her, stripped of his corporate armor, just a man facing the consequences of his choices. The door opened, and both preteens spilled out onto the porch. "Mom," said Oliver, clearly the spokesman, "we couldn't help overhearing. Is this guy really our father?" Madeline sighed, shooting Jackson a look that clearly said, "This is on you." Jackson took a deep breath. "Yes, I am your father, though I haven't earned that title." He looked at each of them in turn. "My name is Jackson Westbrook, and I'm so sorry I haven't been here." "The Jackson Westbrook?" asked Oliver, eyes widening. "The tech guy? Westbrook Innovation CEO?" Jackson nodded uncomfortably. "Cool!" Oliver exclaimed, then quickly tempered his enthusiasm at his mother's sharp glance. Olivia, quieter than her brother, studied Jackson with searching eyes. "Why did you leave us?" The simple question hit Jackson like a physical blow. "I was scared," he admitted. "And selfish. I thought my company was the most important thing in my life." He met Madeline's gaze. "I was wrong." Olivia stepped forward. "Are you back now? Like, for good?" "That's not for me to decide," Jackson replied carefully. "That depends on your mother, and on both of you." Madeline's expression remained guarded, but something in her eyes had shifted. "Perhaps," she said carefully, "we could start with dinner tomorrow night at our house." She looked at her children. "If that's what you both want." Two heads nodded in unison. "I'd be honored," Jackson said, emotion threatening to overtake him. As he prepared to leave, Oliver approached him awkwardly. "So, should we call you Dad, or—" "You can call me Jackson for now," he replied gently. "I need to earn Dad." He exchanged contact information with Madeline, promising to arrive at 6 the next evening. As his car pulled away, Jackson looked back at the three figures standing on the porch. The family he never knew he had. Tears blurred his vision as Michael navigated back toward the city center. "Are you all right, sir?" Michael asked, concern evident in his voice. "No," Jackson replied honestly, "but I think for the first time in 12 years, I might be heading in the right direction." Jackson sat in his car outside the modest two-story home, clutching a bouquet of lilies, Madeline's favorite flowers from years ago, and 2 wrapped packages. He'd spent hours selecting gifts that might appeal to preteens he knew nothing about. For Oliver, a high-end drone. For Olivia, an art tablet. Would they see these presents as genuine gestures or transparent attempts to buy affection? His watch read 5:55 p.m. After 12 years of absence, being precisely on time seemed crucial. The front door opened before he reached it. Olivia stood in the entryway. Up close, Jackson noticed her freckles just like Madeline scattered across her nose. "Hi," she said softly. "Mom's finishing dinner." "Thank you, Olivia," Jackson replied, stepping inside. He offered her the flowers. "Could you give these to your mother?" Olivia accepted them with a shy smile and disappeared into the kitchen. The home felt lived in, and warm walls adorned with children's artwork and family photos chronicling 12 years of milestones he'd missed. School awards, sports trophies, and handmade crafts lined the shelves. Jackson's throat tightened at a framed photo of 2 gap-toothed 7-year-olds blowing out birthday candles. 12 birthdays, he whispered to himself. 12 Christmases, first days of school, 24 report cards, came Madeline's voice from behind him. She stood wiping her hands on a kitchen towel, Olivia at her side with the lilies. 12 first steps, 12 first words, 2 chickenpox outbreaks, she continued. Jackson turned, unable to mask his regret. "Madeline, Dinner's ready," she interrupted, her tone neutral but not cold. "Kids, table." Thundering footsteps announced Oliver's arrival as he bounded down the stairs. "Whoa, presents?" Oliver spotted the packages in Jackson's arms. Madeline raised an eyebrow. "Jackson, you didn't need to." "I wanted to," he said simply, "though I realize gifts can't make up for lost time." Dinner was homemade lasagna. Jackson remembered it as Madeline's specialty with garlic bread and salad. The conversation started awkwardly, with long pauses and uncertain glances. "So," Oliver finally said, "you make computers or something?" Jackson smiled. "Something like that. My company develops software and technology solutions. We started with mobile applications, but now we work on larger systems." "Like what?" Oliver leaned forward eagerly. "Like the operating system in your school's computer lab," Jackson replied, "and the security protocols that protect online banking." Oliver's eyes widened. "That's actually pretty cool." "Is that why you left?" Olivia asked bluntly. "Because you were busy making all that stuff?" The table fell silent. Madeline looked ready to intervene, but Jackson shook his head slightly. "No, Olivia," he answered honestly. "I left because I was afraid. I wasn't ready to be a father, and I convinced myself that my work was more important than family." He met Madeline's eyes briefly. "It was the biggest mistake of my life." After dinner, the gift opening broke some tension. Oliver's drone especially was a hit, and soon both preteens were in the backyard testing it, their excited voices drifting through open windows. Jackson and Madeline stood at the sink, washing dishes in weighted silence. "They're amazing kids," Jackson said finally. "They are," Madeline agreed. "Smart, kind, resilient. They get that from you." "The stubbornness is all you," Jackson replied, "especially Oliver." Madeline handed him a plate to dry, a small smile playing at her lips. "The stubbornness is all you, especially Oliver." Jackson smiled, then grew serious. "Madeline, I know I have no right to ask, but may I be part of their lives? In whatever capacity you're comfortable with?" Madeline stared out the window at their children. "They deserve to know their father," she said finally. "But Jackson, I need to be clear. If you start this, you can't walk away again. They've grown up without you. They've managed. But if you come into their lives now, only to disappear when it gets difficult." "I won't," Jackson promised. "I've spent 12 years chasing success. I finally understand what really matters." Madeline studied him, weighing his sincerity. "We'll take it slow. she decided. Weekend visits? Maybe a dinner during the week. Let's see how it goes. Jackson nodded, grateful for any opportunity. Thank you. In the following weeks, Jackson restructured his entire life around his newfound family. He delegated more responsibilities at work, scheduled board meetings around school events, and declined business trips that would take him away for too long. His executive assistant, Marissa, watched these changes with curiosity. You're turning down the Seoul conference? That's the biggest tech summit in Asia. Family commitment, Jackson replied simply, placing framed photos of two preteens on his desk. Marissa's eyes widened. Since when do you have... It's a long story, Jackson said with a smile. 12 years long, actually. Each of the twins connected with Jackson differently. Oliver was easiest, eager to learn about technology and coding. He bombarded Jackson with questions about software development and entrepreneurship. Could you teach me Python? He asked one Saturday morning. I want to build apps like you. Jackson spent the weekend creating a makeshift coding lab in Oliver's bedroom, delighted by his son's quick mind and enthusiasm. Olivia was more reserved, her trust harder to earn. Jackson discovered her passion for art and began bringing her supplies from specialty shops he found during business trips. These are professional-grade pastels, she gasped, examining the box he'd brought from Paris. Your mother mentioned you like to draw, Jackson explained. I'd love to see your work sometime, if you're comfortable sharing. Olivia's smile was hesitant, but warm, maybe, when they're ready. One evening, after Oliver had gone to bed, Jackson found Olivia sketching in the living room. May I? He asked, gesturing to the space beside her on the couch. Olivia nodded, continuing her drawing a detailed portrait of her brother. You have remarkable talent, Jackson said softly. Your attention to detail is extraordinary. Mom says I get that from you, Olivia replied, not looking up. She says you always notice things others miss. Jackson felt a surge of emotion at this unexpected connection. She remembers that about me? Olivia finally met his gaze. She remembers everything about you. She kept all your letters. Letters? Jackson's brow furrowed. I never sent any letters. Olivia's expression shifted to confusion. But there's a box in her closet with your name on it. The conversation nagged at Jackson for days. During their next family dinner, while the children were clearing the table, he quietly asked Madeline about it. Olivia mentioned letters, he said carefully. From me. But I never... They weren't from you. Madeline interrupted, her cheeks flushing. They were to you. Letters I wrote but never sent, especially during that first year. Jackson's heart constricted. Would you let me read them? Madeline hesitated, vulnerability flashing across her face. They're private, Jackson. I was angry and heartbroken and overwhelmed with 2 newborns. I understand, he nodded, respecting her boundary. I just thought they might help me understand what you went through. Later that evening, as Jackson prepared to leave, Madeline handed him a small wooden box. Just the first few, she said quietly. The others are too personal. Jackson stayed up all night reading Madeline's unsent letters. Her beautiful handwriting, once so familiar, now documented the hardest year of her life. Dear Jackson, the babies came early. 2 perfect tiny humans who each have your eyes. The doctors say they're healthy, despite being premature. I named them Oliver and Olivia. I wish you could see them. Oliver smiled today, a real smile, not just gas. I caught myself reaching for the phone to tell you before remembering you chose not to be part of this. It's 3 a.m. Both are crying at once. I haven't slept more than 2 hours straight in weeks. My mother helps when she can, but she's getting older. I'm so tired I can barely see straight. In my darkest moments, I understand why you left. Tears streamed down Jackson's face as he read about Madeline's struggles, her triumphs, her loneliness. The next morning, he arrived at her house early, eyes red-rimmed from crying and lack of sleep. Madeline opened the door in her bathrobe, surprised to see him. Jackson, it's 6:30 inches the morning. I read them, he said, voice raw with emotion. Madeline, I had no idea what you went through, what I put you through. It was a long time ago, she said softly, but her own eyes glistened. I can never make up for it, Jackson continued, but I want to try. Not just with the kids, but with you too. You deserved so much better. Madeline's composure wavered. For the first time since his return, she allowed herself to cry in front of him. Jackson hesitantly reached out, and when she didn't pull away, he gently wrapped his arms around her. They stood in the doorway, the morning sun washing over them as 12 years of pain began, ever so slightly, to heal. The following weekend, Jackson surprised the family with news. "I've purchased the vacant building next to Oliver's school," he announced during dinner. 3 pairs of eyes stared at him in confusion. "You mentioned the school needed more space for their STEM program," he explained to Madeline. "The building will be donated in the children's names. A trust will cover renovation costs and ongoing maintenance." "That's incredibly generous," Madeline replied, clearly stunned. "It's not generosity," Jackson corrected gently. "It's responsibility. I've missed 12 years of child support. This doesn't begin to cover it." "We don't need your money," Oliver said, a hint of his earlier guardedness returning. "I know you don't," Jackson acknowledged. "Your mother has done an amazing job providing for you. This isn't about money. It's about supporting something that matters to all of you." Later, as they toured the empty building, imagining its potential, Olivia nudged Jackson's arm. "So, does this mean you're sticking around? Like, permanently?" Jackson met Madeline's gaze across the room where she was showing Oliver possible spaces for a computer lab. Something unspoken passed between them, not forgiveness exactly, but possibility. "If you'll have me," Jackson replied, "I'd like nothing more." That night, Jackson helped tuck the children into bed, a privilege he never thought he'd experience. As he turned to leave Olivia's room, she called out, "Good night, Dad." Jackson froze, emotion overwhelming him. "Good night, Olivia," he managed to say before his throat closed completely. Outside in the hallway, he found Madeline waiting, having overheard the exchange. "One down, one to go," she said with a small smile. "They're worth waiting for," Jackson replied. "All of you are." As summer faded into autumn, Jackson settled into a tentative rhythm with his newfound family. Weeknight dinners and weekend outings became the highlight of his existence. Board meetings and quarterly reports, once the central focus of his life, now felt like interruptions to what truly mattered. The renovation of the building next to the school progressed rapidly. Jackson hired the best contractors in the city, but insisted that Madeline and the children have final say on all design decisions. The project became a family affair, with each twin contributing ideas for the space. "We could add a proper art studio," Olivia suggested one afternoon as they toured the construction site. "And a robotics lab," Oliver added enthusiastically, "with 3D printers and programming stations." Jackson made notes of every request, determined to make their dreams reality. Madeline watched these interactions with cautious optimism. Over coffee one morning after the children had left for school, she broached a subject that had been weighing on her mind. "The kids are getting attached to you," she said quietly, "especially Olivia." Jackson set down his mug. "Is that a problem?" "It could be," Madeline replied, meeting his gaze directly. "If this is temporary." "It's not," Jackson assured her. "I'm here for good, Madeline, for all of you. You have a life in the city, a company to run. Eventually, the novelty of playing family man will wear off." "This isn't about novelty," Jackson interrupted gently, "and my company can function without my physical presence every day." He hesitated, then added, "I've been looking at houses in this neighborhood." Madeline's eyes widened. "You're moving here? Permanently?" "If that's okay," Jackson said. "I want to be close to the kids, to you." The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken emotions. "You hurt me, Jackson," Madeline finally whispered. "More than I've ever let anyone hurt me." "I know," he acknowledged, pain evident in his voice. "And yet here we are," she continued, "having coffee in my kitchen while our children are at school." A small, wondering smile touched her lips. Life takes unexpected turns. Jackson reached across the table hesitantly, covering her hand with his. When she didn't pull away, hope bloomed in his chest. The peace was shattered that afternoon when Jackson received an urgent call from Madeline. Oliver had been in a fight at school and was suspended for 3 days. Jackson rushed to the house to find Oliver sulking on the porch, a bruise darkening on his cheek. "What happened?" Jackson asked, sitting beside his son. Oliver shrugged, refusing to meet his eyes. "He won't tell me either," Madeline said from the doorway, arms crossed. The principal said Oliver threw the first punch. Jackson studied Oliver's posture, defensive, embarrassed, angry. Everyone else gone? Madeline nodded. Olivia has art club. Mind if Oliver and I take a drive? Madeline hesitated, then agreed. Dinner's at 6. In Jackson's car, Oliver maintained his stubborn silence for several minutes as they drove without destination. Fighting isn't like you, Jackson observed casually. Must have been something serious. Oliver stared out the window. How would you know what's like me? You've been around for what, 2 months? The accusation stung, but Jackson acknowledged its truth. Fair point. I'm still learning who you are, but your mother says you've never been in trouble at school before. Oliver's jaw worked as he struggled with some internal conflict. Finally, he burst out. Ryan Hutchins said you only came back because Mom must have blackmailed you. Said you probably weren't even our real dad, and Mom was just after your money. Jackson pulled the car into an empty parking lot and turned to face his son. And you hit him for that? Wouldn't you? Oliver challenged, green eyes so like Jackson's own flashing with indignation. Probably, Jackson admitted, surprising Oliver. But not because it was true, because it was completely false. He turned fully toward Oliver. No one forced me to come back. The minute I learned about you and your sister, I knew I had to be part of your lives. That's the truth. Then why did you leave in the first place? Oliver demanded. If we matter so much. The question cut to the heart of everything. Jackson took a deep breath. I was young, scared, and incredibly selfish, he began. When your mother told me she was pregnant, all I could think about was how it would affect my goals, my company, my future. I convinced myself I was doing what was best for everyone by walking away. He met Oliver's gaze directly. I was wrong, catastrophically wrong, and I've missed 12 years that I can never get back. Oliver absorbed this, some of his anger deflating. Mom struggled a lot when we were little. She worked 2 jobs. Our grandma had to move in to help. Each word was a knife to Jackson's heart. I'm so sorry, Oliver. I can't change the past, but I promise I'm here now, for good. Oliver studied his father's face, looking for deception and finding only regret and determination. I believe you, he said finally, and I'm not sorry I punched Ryan. Jackson suppressed a smile. Violence isn't the answer, but standing up for your family that I understand. He started the car. How about we stop for ice cream before heading home? And maybe we don't mention that part to your mother. Oliver grinned the first genuine smile he directed at Jackson. Deal. As autumn deepened into winter, the renovation of the school addition neared completion. The project had attracted positive media attention, with several articles highlighting the educational impact. One particularly prominent piece featured a photo of Jackson with Madeline and the twins, captioned Tech Billionaire Fund's STEM Center in honor of his children. The morning after its publication, Madeline arrived at the construction site visibly upset, newspaper clutched in her hand. Have you seen this? She demanded, thrusting the paper at Jackson. I did, he replied carefully. The publicity should help with additional funding. It's not about the article, Madeline interrupted. It's about the comments people are making online. They're speculating about us, about our relationship. The children are getting messages from strangers. Jackson paled. I never considered how the publicity might affect them. I'm sorry, Madeline. Oliver came home yesterday, asking if we were getting back together. Apparently, his classmates have been teasing him about it. Jackson ran a hand through his hair. What did you tell him? Madeline's expression softened slightly. I told him that we're figuring things out, that families come in many forms. Are we? Jackson asked quietly. Figuring things out? Before Madeline could respond, Oliver and Olivia burst into the room, excitement evident on their faces. Did you see the news? Oliver exclaimed. They're calling Dad a philanthropic tech genius. Jackson and Madeline exchanged a glance at Oliver's casual use of Dad, a term both children had gradually adopted over the past months. And my art teacher recognized us from the photo, Olivia added. She wants me to create a mural for the main entrance. Madeline's frustration visibly mellowed in the face of her children's enthusiasm. Later, as they walked through the nearly completed building, she murmured to Jackson, We should be more careful about media exposure. I want to protect their privacy. Absolutely, Jackson agreed. I'll have my PR team redirect attention to the center itself, not our family situation. Madeline gave him a sidelong glance. Is that what this is? A family situation? Jackson stopped walking. What would you call it? I don't know, Madeline admitted. Sometimes it feels like co-parenting. Sometimes it feels like something more. The air between them charged with possibility. But before Jackson could respond, Olivia called them over to approve the placement of a mural she'd designed. The grand opening of the STEM Center fell on a crisp December evening. Twinkle lights adorned the entrance, and community members gathered in anticipation. Jackson stood to the side, watching Madeline direct last-minute preparations with calm efficiency. She caught his eye across the room and smiled a genuine warm smile that reached her eyes. Such moments had become more frequent between them, hints of the connection they once shared. The ceremony began with speeches from community leaders and a ribbon cutting by the twins. Jackson intentionally stayed in the background, letting the spotlight shine on Madeline and the children. This was their triumph, their community. Olivia's original artwork adorned key walls, bringing color and life to each space. Oliver proudly demonstrated the new computer lab, explaining the technology to impressed visitors. As the evening wound down, Jackson found Madeline alone in the art studio, admiring Olivia's centerpiece mural, a tree with two intertwined branches reaching toward the sky. "She has remarkable talent," Jackson said softly. Madeline nodded. "Both of them do, in different ways. They get that from their mother." Madeline turned to face him. "You've been extraordinary these past months, Jackson. The way you've connected with each of them, respected their boundaries, supported their interests. It's more than I ever expected." "They make it easy to love them," Jackson replied simply. "You raised amazing human beings, Madeline." She studied him in the soft lighting. "You've changed. Having two children and their remarkable mother come into my life tends to have that effect," he said with a gentle smile. "And if you hadn't seen that article?" The question hung heavy between them. Jackson considered it carefully. "I'd still be existing rather than living," he finally answered. "Successful but hollow, rich but poor in all the ways that matter." He moved closer to her. "Finding you all was the greatest gift I never deserved." Madeline's eyes glistened. "We spent 12 Christmases without you." "I know," Jackson acknowledged, pain evident in his voice. "This will be the first one with you," Madeline continued. "The children have been planning your gift for weeks." Jackson felt emotion tight in his throat. "Being included in your lives is the only gift I need." Madeline took a step closer. "There was a time when I hated you," she admitted softly. "When I would have slammed the door in your face if you'd returned. I wouldn't have blamed you. But watching you these past months, your genuine effort, your love for our children, your respect for me and the life we built without you, I've realized something." Madeline paused, gathering courage. "I never completely stopped loving the man I married. I just buried those feelings beneath anger and hurt." Jackson's heart stuttered. "Madeline, I'm not saying I'm ready to pick up where we left off," she clarified. "Too much has happened, but I'm open to the possibility of something new, something based on who we are now, not who we were then." Jackson gently took her hands in his. "That's more than I deserve, more than I hoped for." Their moment was interrupted by the twins bursting into the room, filled with excitement about the event's success. "Dad, Mom, did you see how many people signed up for the coding classes?" Oliver exclaimed. "And the principal said my murals were inspirational," Olivia added, her typical reserve overcome by pride. Oliver slung an arm around Jackson's shoulders, a casual gesture that felt momentous. "Nice job staying out of the spotlight, Dad. Very humble billionaire of you." Olivia nudged her brother. "Please, he's just being strategic. Less press means more family time." Jackson and Madeline exchanged a look of shared amusement and wonder at their children's perceptiveness. As the four people he loved most in the world chattered around him, Jackson felt a completeness he'd never known. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Christmas morning arrived with a blanket of fresh snow. Jackson, who had rented a house just 2 blocks from Madeline's, arrived early with arms full of carefully chosen gifts. The living room glowed with soft lights from the tree as the family gathered to exchange presents. When all the children's gifts had been opened, Olivia handed Jackson a large flat package. "This is from all of us," she said, suddenly shy. "Mom helped, but it was our idea." Jackson unwrapped it carefully to reveal a handcrafted wooden frame containing a collage of photographs 12 years of moments he had missed. First steps, first days of school, birthdays, holidays, sports games, music recitals, art shows, and In the center, a recent family portrait of all four of them taken at the STEM Center opening. Across the bottom, in careful lettering, were the words, "The past we shared without you. The future we'll build together." Jackson couldn't speak through his tears. He simply opened his arms, and both teenagers crowded in for a group hug that felt like coming home. Later, as the children tested their new gifts, Jackson and Madeline stood in the kitchen doorway. Watching their family with shared contentment. "Thank you," Jackson said softly, "for allowing me back into your lives, for giving me a second chance I didn't deserve." Madeline slipped her hand into his. "Maybe it's not about deserving. Maybe it's about recognizing what matters and choosing it every day from now on." Jackson squeezed her hand gently. "I choose this. All of you. Every day." Above them, someone had hung a sprig of mistletoe. Madeline noticed it first and smiled. "Olivia's doing, no doubt. She's become quite the romantic." Jackson followed her gaze upward, then looked back at Madeline questioningly. She nodded, almost imperceptibly, and he leaned down to kiss her gently, briefly, a promise of possibilities. A cheer erupted from the living room. They turned to find both children watching them with varying expressions of delight and mock disgust. "Finally!" Olivia exclaimed. "Gross," Oliver groaned, but he was smiling. As Jackson stood with his arm around Madeline, surrounded by their children, he marveled at how completely his life had transformed in just a few months, from empty success to meaningful connection, from solitude to family. It wasn't perfect. There were still wounds healing, trust rebuilding, relationships deepening. But it was real and true and worth every moment. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the world in pristine white, a blank page on which to write their future together. 1 year later, the Westbrook Reed household bustled with activity. Spring sunshine streamed through open windows as Jackson flipped pancakes in the kitchen of their new home, a spacious craftsman with enough bedrooms for everyone and a sprawling backyard perfect for family gatherings. "Dad, have you seen my portfolio?" Olivia called from upstairs. "My college interview is in 2 hours." "Check the studio," Jackson replied, sliding a perfectly golden pancake onto a growing stack. "Next to your sketchbooks." The past year had transformed them all. After months of careful consideration, Madeline had agreed to sell her modest home, and Jackson had sold his sterile penthouse. Together, they purchased this warm, welcoming house halfway between the community center and the twins' high school, a fresh start on neutral ground. Madeline appeared in the doorway, hair damp from the shower, looking more relaxed than Jackson had seen her in years. "You're making your famous chocolate chip pancakes," she observed with a smile. "Special occasion." Jackson leaned over to kiss her cheek. 1 year since we moved in together. Seemed worth celebrating. Madeline's eyes softened as she wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. "Has it really been a year already?" "Best year of my life," Jackson replied, covering her hands with his free one. Their peaceful moment was interrupted by Oliver thundering down the stairs, laptop in hand. "Dad, the acceptance letters are out. MIT posted them at midnight." Jackson and Madeline exchanged alarmed glances. Oliver had applied to his dream school, Jackson's alma mater, but had been too nervous to check the results. "Did you look?" Madeline asked gently. Oliver shook his head, holding out his computer with trembling hands. "I can't." "You do it," he said to Jackson. Jackson set down his spatula and took the laptop, heart pounding. He logged into the admissions portal. The message loaded, and his face broke into a wide grin. "Oliver James Westbrook Reed," he read aloud. "We are pleased to offer you admission to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, class of 2030. The rest of the message was drowned out by Oliver's whoop of joy. He launched himself at Jackson, nearly knocking him over with a fierce hug. Madeline joined them, eyes brimming with happy tears. "You did it, buddy," Jackson said, voice thick with emotion. "I'm so proud of you. We both are." "Your hard work paid off," Madeline added, smoothing Oliver's hair. Oliver grinned, running a hand through his hair, a gesture so like Jackson's that it made Madeline's heart skip. "I need to call Grandma and text my friends." He dashed off, leaving his parents smiling in his wake. "He'll be across the country," Madeline said softly. I never thought I'd have to face empty nest syndrome with both leaving at once. Jackson squeezed her hand. We'll get through it together. And hey, we can turn their rooms into hobby spaces, he teased. Bold of you to assume Oliver will fully move out, Madeline laughed. That boy will follow his stomach home every chance he gets. As if summoned by mention of food, Olivia appeared, already dressed for her interview, portfolio clutched tightly to her chest. Morning, she said, kissing each parent on the cheek. Oliver just texted me about MIT. That's amazing. And today's your big day with RISD, Jackson reminded her. Rhode Island School of Design had been her top choice for pursuing fine arts. I'm so nervous, Olivia admitted, accepting the plate of pancakes Madeline offered. You'll be brilliant, Jackson assured her. Your portfolio is exceptional. And if RISD doesn't recognize that, they don't deserve you, Madeline added firmly. Olivia smiled gratefully at her parents. I'm glad you'll both be there. For moral support. Wouldn't miss it, Jackson promised. As they sat around the kitchen table, Jackson looked at his family Madeline discussing interview strategies with Olivia, Oliver texting excitedly about his acceptance, and felt a swell of gratitude so powerful it nearly overwhelmed him. Before everyone scatters, Jackson announced, raising his coffee mug, I want to propose a toast to Oliver and his MIT acceptance, to Olivia and her interview today, and to your mother, who made everything possible. The twins raised their juice glasses as Madeline blushed. To Mom, they chorused. And to Dad, Olivia added softly, for finding his way back to us. After breakfast, the house emptied quickly. Jackson drove Olivia to her interview, while Madeline took Oliver shopping for MIT gear, his requested celebration. That evening, they reconvened for a family dinner at Olivia's favorite restaurant. She bounced into the booth, eyes shining. They loved my portfolio, she announced. The interviewer said my use of color was sophisticated beyond my years, and they're especially interested in my community center murals. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Madeline beamed. Told you, Jackson said, squeezing Olivia's shoulder proudly. Oliver, decked out in new MIT sweatshirt and hat, grinned at his sister. Looks like the Westbrook Reed kids are taking over the East Coast. Boston and Providence, Olivia mused. Close enough for weekend visits. And both close enough to come home regularly, Madeline reminded them, a hint of wistfulness in her voice. Under the table, Jackson took her hand. They'll always come home, he assured her. This is their foundation now. Our foundation, Madeline replied, squeezing his fingers. Later that night, after the twins had gone to bed, Jackson and Madeline sat on the back porch swing, a blanket draped over their laps against the spring chill. The yard was peaceful under the moonlight, the swing creaking gently as they rocked. I never thought we'd be here, Madeline murmured, her head resting on Jackson's shoulder. Married again? Living together? Planning college visits across the country? Any of it, Madeline admitted. After you left, I locked away any hope of this kind of happiness. I focused entirely on the children. You were extraordinary, Jackson said softly. You still are. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, listening to the distant sounds of the neighborhood settling for the night. They're going to be okay, aren't they? Jackson asked quietly, heading out into the world. They will, Madeline confirmed. They're smart, resilient, and kind. They know who they are and where they come from. That's the best foundation we could give them. Jackson nodded, his arm tightening around her shoulders. And us? Will we be okay when they're gone? Madeline turned to face him fully. I think we've earned our happy ending, don't you? I do, Jackson agreed, leaning down to kiss her softly. When they separated, Madeline's eyes held a mischievous glint. Besides, I have plans for us. Oh? Jackson raised an eyebrow. What kind of plans? Well, the community center has offered me the director position, Madeline revealed. And I know you've been considering stepping back from day-to-day operations at Westbrook Innovations. I have, Jackson acknowledged. The new COO is more than capable of running things. I could focus on strategy and innovation, work remotely most of the time. And maybe, Madeline suggested, eyes twinkling, we could use some of those empty bedrooms for more than just hobby spaces, eventually. Jackson's brow furrowed in confusion, then cleared as understanding dawned. Madeline Reed Westbrook, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? The foster care system always needs good homes. Madeline said softly. We have love to give, experience raising children, and resources to provide opportunities. Just something to consider. Jackson felt his heart expand with love for this remarkable woman. I think that sounds perfect, he whispered, pulling her close. Absolutely perfect. From inside the house came the sound of a door opening, followed by Oliver's voice. Mom? Dad? Are you guys out here? Olivia just got an email from Rizd. Jackson and Madeline exchanged a look equal parts exasperation and adoration before rising to join their children inside. Whatever the email contained, they would face it together, just as they would face all the challenges and joys to come. As Jackson followed Madeline into the house, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here from the frightened young man who had walked away 12 years ago to the husband and father he was today. The transformation still amazed him. He had nearly missed all of it. The everyday joys of family life, the chaotic breakfast tables, the college acceptance celebrations. If not for that chance article that fateful day when he saw Madeline's face again, he might never have known what he was missing. But fate had given him a second chance, and he had seized it with both hands. Now, watching Madeline laugh as Olivia read her acceptance email aloud, hearing Oliver's enthusiastic congratulations echo through the house, Jackson knew with absolute certainty this was always where he was meant to be. Home at last. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to Mr. Sterling's Secrets of Love for more powerful stories about love, forgiveness, and finding your way home. Share in the comments if you believe in second chances, and remember, it's never too late to create the life and family you were meant to have.